In today's presentation, I'll be giving you guys a complete breakdown on what actually transformed not only my physique, but my life as well. Because as you can see, back in 2018, I did not look the best, not too impressive, but I'd been in the gym working out for about 3 years at that point. And then in 2022, I had structure in the gym. I knew what I was doing. I was getting stronger, but the rest of my life did not look the way that I wanted it to. I was working a 9 to 5 job I didn't like. I didn't have any real purpose in my life other than just going to the gym. And I wasn't really happy with who I was overall. Fast forward to right now, I am living in Colombia. I'm very proud of the way that I look within my physique and my life overall. And I've got some more room to grow. Obviously, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I'm in a much better place now mentally and physically than I was in these previous two pictures. So my goal within this presentation is to get you guys much faster results in being able to implement what I've learned, because it took me a very long time to be able to do this. The biggest thing that changed for me, the biggest catalyst, was me doing 75 hard about a year ago, because I was still kind of living in the same way that I was back in 2022 last year, to where I had a 9 to 5 job I didn't really like, and I wasn't making that much money. And I was trying to fill that void by going out on the weekends, going to festivals, partying. And it reached a point in May of last year to where I went to Miami by myself and I spent way too much money. I was completely out of alignment. And on the drive home, I felt so bad about myself and I was so ashamed that I felt forced to take action. And what really changed was me doing 75 hard. And what I learned throughout that process was that it's not the most sustainable way to go about fitness and to go about transforming your life. But I did make it through the 75 days and I learned a lot from it. And I was able to extrapolate a few things that I was doing during those 75 days to how I live now. So overall, just being able to force myself into taking the right action, being able to extract the right things from that process, and just having a lot more structure in my life. Because the reason why I looked like shit back in 2018 was because I didn't have structure in the gym or my entire life. And then I had structure in the gym back in 2022, but the rest of my life I didn't. So that's why I wasn't making that much money. I wasn't happy. I didn't have any purpose. But now I have purpose and I have the physique that I actually want. So I'm going to show you guys exactly what changed in this presentation. But first things first, the high performance pyramid, that's what all of this is going to be about. And I made a separate PowerPoint for each of these pillars: mindset, habits, training, and nutrition. But for this presentation, I want it to be concise, right to the point, and I want you guys to be able to extract a lot of value from it. That way you can implement it into your lives directly. But if you want a more detailed breakdown on each of these pillars, you can go to my channel and check these out. But this video should be all that you really need to make the changes that you need in your life. Okay, so why do most fitness programs fail? Because most people, whether they have a coach or they do it on their own, they focus solely on taking action through training and nutrition. But as you saw in the previous slide, those are the top two pillars. But you need to set the foundation through the first two, which are your mindset and your habits. Because your mindset and your habits, they create the foundation for who you are as a person, the thoughts that you have, your belief system, and the action that you take on the back end to make it possible for you to handle more and to be able to adhere to a program for your training and your nutrition. Because if you don't adhere to anything specific in your life, if you don't have a process within how you move through life just in general, then you can't expect to be able to adhere to any other type of program that you try to place on yourself. All right, and going into mindset, this is the foundation. So the first thing that you want to establish as it relates to your mindset are your goals. And you need to have direction. You need to live with intention in order to get to where you want to go in life. But first, you need to identify what that is. Like, what is the end goal? What is the result that you are seeking? The biggest reason why I struggled so much and why I didn't get to where I wanted to go in life back in the day is because I didn't even have specific goals. And you need to have a destination for where you're going, and you want to have meaning behind it too. So you want to understand your why and what it means to you, but you want to write down your goals. You want to spend time with yourself and being able to identify what that actually is, what it means to you, So after you identify your why and being able to have some more substance to it that goes beyond the surface, you want to then be specific on how you're going to get there. So if you want to get in better shape, you can't just have an open-ended vague goal that's to lose 20 pounds and like that's it. Like it's good to be specific with like how much weight you want to lose or that you want to gain, but you need to have actionable things that you can do throughout the week, throughout every single month that's going to get you closer to your goals. So you want to be able to identify, okay, I'm going to train 3 times per week. I'm going to do cardio twice a week. I'm going to eliminate this out of my diet. You want to be able to be very specific. That way you can take the right steps in order to get there. That might sound very obvious, but it took me a long ass time to be able to realize that. So I wanted to make that clear off the jump. So after you set your goals, that helps you align your actions in accordance with that. But in order to do that efficiently in the right way, you want to kind of check yourself and be introspective and just see where your head's at, because your results are a reflection of your identity and your beliefs. And if you're operating from a limited belief system, if you don't believe that you're capable of achieving certain things in life, then you're just not going to be able to do it. So you want to understand that your mindset shapes behavior and behavior shapes the results. So if your mindset is all over the place, if you don't really have that instilled belief in yourself, then it's going to hold you back time and time again. So the best thing that you can start doing is to only entertain thoughts that serve you. And I'm going to go into this in the next slide, but a great way to start having more awareness of your thoughts and of your belief system and who you are as a person is through doing meditation. And, the more that you can have awareness of your thoughts and control the thoughts that you have and only entertain ones that serve you, because through meditation, you begin to learn that you are not your thoughts. And once you draw that line and create that distinction, then you're less likely to fall into a pattern or into a cycle in which you're ruled by your thoughts and you begin to take ownership of them. And that's how you want to go through life, because you can't just be controlled by everything that's outside of you, but also your own mind as well. And a great way to be able to do this as well is by thinking in terms of gratitude and abundance. And a lot of the time, we often think of what we're lacking in life, what could be better, what we're missing. But you want to be able to zoom out and just see life for what it really is. The fact that we're humans living on a planet, that we live in this time period full of information. We have all these resources at our disposal. You're healthy and you have the opportunity to improve and get better. So you want to focus on everything that's in your favor. And you don't want to have this lead to toxic positivity or anything like that. But you want to just be able to really highlight what you do have in your life and what's good, and being able to make what you feel like you're lacking better, but not focusing on it in that way. Being able to channel the good in your life to where it can empower you, to where it can promote goodness within you. Because the more that you can think in that lens and in those terms, it reminds you of how much abundance there is in life and how much potential there is to get better. And then ultimately, you just want to focus on the process and not the outcome. Going back to goal setting, it's great to have a specific goal and to be very detailed on how you're going to get there. But you can't place over importance on the goal. You can't feel like it's everything and you need to get it to be happy or to be fulfilled, because true fulfillment comes from the process, from who you're becoming as a result of chasing that goal. Because once you detach from any outcome or any result, then it just forces you to be more present. You're more in the moment. You're more connected to what you're doing. And by doing so, by being more connected to who you're actually becoming, it makes the results inevitable. So that is very key. You want to be able to just, harness all the enjoyment from the effort. And that really is the reward rather than the outcome. Because when you place all the importance on the outcome, it signals lack. It signals that you don't have it. And you just want to be able to just enjoy the process. And that's what it's all about. Because if you don't enjoy the process, you're not going to be able to get anywhere with it, because ultimately the journey is all that you have. The ultimate identity shift that you want to make, just kind of simplify things, is instead of focusing on the fact that you want to lose weight, keyword is want there. You don't want to just say that you want things, because again, it signals that you don't have it. You want to just think in terms of okay, I'm already someone who takes care of my body. I'm already someone that is healthy. When you make that shift internally, then you're already deserving of the outcome, because it's how you already see yourself. You already see yourself as someone who is doing the right things to get there. Therefore, it's going to come. But when you create separation by saying that you want something, it makes the process that much harder. All right, habits. This is the most important slide right here because it's how you actually turn your new identity through having the right mindset into action, action that you can take every single day. Because you want to be able to take identity based action, meaning taking action based on the person that you are becoming that's reflective of where you want to go in life. So you want to think of the end result, like who you want to become, what that person looks like, what he does every day, and aligning that with how you act right now. And for me, the biggest game changers when I started 75 Hard was I started meditating and journaling. And I know that those aren't a requirement through the actual challenge itself, but I felt compelled to start doing it to add to everything else that I was doing. And those two were so transformative because through meditating, it allowed me to have more control over my thoughts and to just have more peace in my life overall. I had more clarity and it just helped me go into my journaling sessions with the right intention because I wouldn't be writing about what happened the day previously. I'll be writing about how I'm going to show up today, who I'm becoming, how I'm going to achieve my goals no matter what, and setting in motion that I am this person right now, even if I didn't feel like it. Because what it does is it reprograms your subconscious mind to have more belief. And that reinforces the right mindset too. Because you want to be able to create a new way of thinking and a new pattern. Because if you're operating from a limited belief system, if you're not the most confident, then you need to take action in the right way to build confidence. And that can be by going to the gym and doing a few other things. But you want to be able to do it on the back end too. That actually reprograms how you think on a subconscious level. Because when you put pen to paper and you write down that, like, I am this person right now, even if you don't fully believe it, then over time, through all the repetition, you're going to start to believe that you are that person. And then therefore, the action and the behavior that you take will be in direct alignment with that. And to get more specific, what I do is called the 5-4-5 method. So every single morning, I write down 5 goals that I have, my 5 most meaningful goals to me, and then a 4-step morning routine that I follow every single day without fail, which is I drink electrolyte powder, I journal, I read, and I meditate. And then 5 tasks that are going to move the needle at least a little bit every single day to get me closer to my goals. And it doesn't have to be extreme every single time. You know, if you're on vacation, if you're out of town, just being able to reinforce that, like, no matter what, I'm making at least a little bit of progress every single day. But when you have more time and when you're more able, then you want to make sure those tasks are a bit more efficient and they have a bit more to it. But just you want to reinforce again on a subconscious level that, like, this is who I am because I'm taking the right action every single day to get me closer. So you want to be able to find a routine that works for you, something that you can take anywhere you go, that's very repeatable, that's efficient, that takes you like 20 or 30 minutes. That way it's not going to get in the way of your life. But you want to be able to find something consistent that you do every single day because that sets the foundation for how far you go in life. When you keep it simple and when you keep it to where it's something that you enjoy doing as well, then it's going to take you much farther in life. All right, moving on. You are what you consume. So this is very important in the social media age and with there being so many distractions all throughout life. You want to be able to understand that your inputs become your outputs. So whatever you consume on a daily basis, whatever you allow into your mind ends up coming out in some way in how you behave, how you think, how you feel. So if you're scrolling on social media like 2 or 3 hours a day and you're just consuming random content, you can't expect yourself to continue to live with intention because it's good to have goals. It's good to have the right intention in life that you want to get somewhere. But if your attention, your focus, and your energy, if it's scattered and if it's not focused on the goals, but by doing the 5-4-5 method and by doing the meditation and the journaling, it helps reinforce the right attention in the right places to get to where you want to be. But beyond that, if your attention is still a little bit scattered, if it's not in the right places, then it's going to be much easier to lose sight of the goals and where you're going in life. So more often than not, you want to be able to clear out your inputs and be able to only consume things that are reflective of your goals and where you want to go in life more often than not, because we can't be perfect and you can't expect to just, be a robot that's just like hyper focused all the time. But you want to be able to just be mindful, be aware of it, and just be conscious of what you're allowing into your brain and how it's affecting you, and just having the awareness there on like how you feel after doing certain things. Because for me, if I ever scroll on social media, I know that I just feel like shit after. So You want to take inventory of that. And the more focus you place into your goals and who you're becoming, the more you're going to get out. What you put in is what you get out. All right. And the one question that you want to ask yourself, just to kind of simplify things even further, is this getting me closer or farther from my goals? So when it comes to your inputs, when it comes to what you do every single day, in most cases, everything that you do can be broken down to this one question. So again, it's just about having awareness, because awareness really is everything when it comes to this. And the more awareness you have, the easier everything is going to be. And you're going to be more mindful of how things affect you, what works for you, what doesn't, because you are what you repeatedly do. And you want to make sure that what you repeatedly do is in reflection of where you want to go. All right, going into training. So the goal here is to build an athletic body that you can sustain year round. And you do that just by keeping it simple, because you don't need to live in the gym. I go to the gym 4 days per week, and that seems to work for me. But back in the day, I was going 5 or 6 days a week. And while I did still build muscle and it was still good, I spent extra time in the gym that I didn't really need to. Because if you have the right program, you can be efficient with your training by hitting an antagonist and an agonist muscle group during the same session, where you can do supersets, you can be time efficient. And then also when you go less, it's more novel, it's more exciting. But when you go 5 or 6 days a week to the same gym, especially, it can get old really quick. It can feel stale when you do the same exact workouts week after week. So you want to be able to go less to save yourself time. And then as you go less, you have more flexibility. So if you miss a day or two, you can always make it up easier. And then you can also train with more intensity too. So you want to train 1 to 2 reps in reserve, close to failure, because the main stimulus for growth is the effort that you put in. And then being able to have progressive overload be at the cornerstone of your training, trying to increase the load or the weights or the volume every single week. So you want to be able to do that. And it's pretty simple. You just want to train hard, go 3 or 4 days per week, follow the right program, make sure you have progressive overload, and you're pretty much good. Focus on compound movements mostly. It's really not that complicated, and there's so much content all over social media about how you should train, science-based lifting, all of this shit. But no matter what you do, whether it's with weights, calisthenics, or any other form of training, you just want to be able to train hard, make it efficient, and that's basically it. You want to be able to have time to recover as well, which is why going 3 to 4 days per week is also a lot more optimal. But that way you can just enjoy the process more. You have more flexibility. And then another key component is just like having more variety within how you train too, because it makes it more fun. It increases adherence, because I do a lot of calisthenics, as you can see here. And when you do calisthenics, it opens up the door to being able to train anytime, anywhere, because you shouldn't feel confined to only going to the gym. You want to be able to take it with you wherever you go. As you can see in this picture, my Airbnb is right here. I was over in Cusco, Peru, and up the stairs, there was a railing that was wide enough so that I could do dips. So I did 4 or 5 sets of dips right there. And something that I do is 100 push-ups every single day, not specifically to try to build a bigger chest, but just to reinforce discipline in my identity, being someone who's fit, who's a fitness coach. And when that's a principle that you live by, it just makes it easier to adhere to it, to enjoy the process, because it becomes part of who you are and you no longer have to force it into your routine. But in addition to all of this, in order to make it sustainable and to stay in shape year round, you want to be able to move your body every single day outside of the gym as well. I like to shoot for 8,000 steps every day. Usually I'm around 13 to 14,000 is my average, but at a bare minimum, you want to make sure that you hit 8K steps every single day. You can do that by playing sports, going for walks, running, or doing anything else that's active. Because in order to make this sustainable and make it long lasting, you need to identify as someone who's fit. And if you view activity or being in the gym as a hassle, as a burden, then you're not going to get very far, and you're going to have to focus that much more on your diet, because the more calories that you burn and the more it's integrated into your daily life, it makes everything else easier. All right, going into nutrition. So I like to follow a whole food principle, which is 80-20, which means 80% whole foods. You want to shoot for a bit higher if you can, but again, at a bare minimum, just 80% whole foods. And then every single meal, you want to prioritize protein. So whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or any snack even. So if you have a sweet tooth, pair anything sweet with protein. I like to do a yogurt bowl or a protein smoothie with fruit. That's a great way to make sure that you can hit your protein goal by being able to do that every single meal. And then by eating whole foods, they're more satiating, they're healthier for you, they contain micronutrients. So it makes everything easier and it helps with digestion and just overall health. So the more that you can stick to that, the better you're going to feel and the better you're going to perform. And I don't teach my clients to track macros or anything like that. I assign macro targets, and it's good to have awareness of where they should be based on your goals. But if you have routine within what you eat, if you just have a few select meals that you like to rotate through, that you know are within range of your goals, then that's all you really need. You don't need to track every single day because, again, that's not the most sustainable approach. You want to be able to craft a system that is effortless, that is easy. And by experimenting and trying out a few different meals that you like to cook, you're going to be able to find something that works for you and that has high protein, that makes you feel full, and that's overall satisfying. You just want to be able to eat how our ancestors ate back in the day. Keep it simple, but when you try to add all this extra shit, when you eat out way too often, that adds a lot more uncertainty as far as like what's actually being put into your body. So the more that you can control all those variables, the better. And if you're cutting specifically, you want to be able to do intermittent fasting because that'll give you even more flexibility within your diet. If you skip breakfast, or if you have a very light breakfast, say you just have electrolyte powder, you can do coffee after that, maybe one banana, or you can put some protein powder into your coffee, something like that. Then it'll give you more flexibility to eat meals that are more satisfying throughout the day. And then hunger versus habit. So a lot of the time, especially if you're used to eating more, you want to be able to have awareness as far as that goes by asking yourself, whenever you get hungry, especially if it's late at night or something, you want to ask yourself if you're willing to eat a piece of plain protein, whether it be a hard-boiled egg or a piece of plain chicken, something like that. And if the answer is no, then you're probably not that hungry and it's just habit. So you just want to have awareness as far as that goes, especially if you're cutting too, because it's easy to overeat if you just act on that instinct and if you're used to doing so. So if you draw that line and if you just ask yourself that question, if I'm willing to eat a piece of plain protein, then that'll help you build the new habit of not eating when it's unnecessary. All right, recovery. So everything that I went over in this PowerPoint isn't going to matter if you don't sleep enough, if you don't understand recovery, why it's important. So obviously, it's important to repair muscle and for overall muscle growth because it optimizes your hormones, specifically testosterone. And the less that you sleep, the more likely you're going to have fat gain over time. And overall, it's going to increase performance just because you're going to have more energy, more focus. You're going to feel more fresh going into each day. But over time, if you don't sleep enough, it's going to tank your testosterone. You're not going to be able to have as higher amounts of protein synthesis take place. And it's going to make it harder to operate at your highest potential every single day, just through daily life, at your job, in the gym, all of that. So you want to be able to optimize how you perform every single day and being able to optimize your hormones and being able to build as much muscle as possible. So the best thing that you can stick to is sleeping at least 7 hours every single night. And you can do that by having a consistent schedule, having a dark and a cool room. Try to eliminate screens 1 hour before you go to bed and having morning sunlight because that resets your circadian rhythm and it makes it easier to have a consistent schedule. And you want to avoid alcohol, especially late at night, late workouts, late meals, and having caffeine too late. And if you guys are still struggling to get good sleep, then you can also supplement too. You can use magnesium glycinate, glycine, or L-theanine. These have helped me in the past. I don't typically use them only if I really need to now. But if you want to transition into trying to get better sleep, you can use these and then eventually taper off because they should be your last course of action. Overall, the best thing you can do is stick to a consistent sleep schedule. That way you can set your circadian rhythm in the right place. Because if you're sleeping at a different time every single night or on the weekends only, then that's probably why you're having a hard time sleeping because your body doesn't know when it's time to start to shut down. So that's the biggest takeaway here and just how important it is for overall muscle growth, for your hormones, and for performance because you can't really neglect that. It's the foundation for how you operate through life. Okay, and overall, so peak performance is the inevitable outcome if you adhere to all of these principles, specifically the mindset and habits, because if you're watching this video, I'm assuming you already know more or less what to do with your training and your nutrition. Those are pretty self-explanatory, but a lot of people, like I said in one of the first slides, they skip mindset and habits and think that they can just jump right into the training. But you want to be able to calibrate first. You want to be able to cultivate the right mindset, have the right habits to accompany it, and then we can start to talk about training and nutrition because they're going to feel effortless if you approach it in the right way through having the correct mindset and having the right habits as well. And this is just general guidelines for how to improve your life, how to get to where you want to be. But if you guys want a more specific, tailored approach to your goals in your life, you can feel free to click down below in the description for a one-on-one coaching call, because I offer custom programming and being able to have accountability for your specific goals. And that way I can tailor everything specifically to you. If you guys are interested in that, click the link down below. But overall, this video should be a great guide on how to establish the right structure in your life to get to where you want to be. So with that, I will leave you guys and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.